You want to know the fastest way a man loses a woman's respect? It's when he begs for her attention. Think about that for a second. A man who has conquered himself, his emotions, his impulses, his need for external validation, does not chase approval. He commands it by the way he carries himself. Now ask yourself, have you ever waited for her to text back, watched her story hoping it's a message, or worse, double-texted? That's not strength. That's silent desperation wrapped in digital addiction. You've been told that if you show her you care, if you're nice enough, she'll stay. But let me hit you with a truth most men can't stomach. Attention that's earned through supplication never lasts. Women might smile at it, they might even use it, but they never respect it. And without respect, there is no real attraction. Now listen carefully, because this is where most guys get stuck. They confuse being stoic with being passive. They think stoicism means showing no interest. That's not stoicism. That's cowardice, hiding behind detachment. Real stoicism means control, power, precision. You don't repress emotions, you command them. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what a stoic man never does with women, and why it makes all the difference between being pursued or forgotten. You'll see the mindset shift that separates the admired from the abandoned. You'll understand how restraint, not reaction, triggers attraction, and you'll know why your emotions, when mastered, become your greatest weapon. Let me tell you why this matters, because right now there's a generation of men chasing validation and calling it love. They're over-explaining themselves, apologizing for their standards, and tiptoeing around feminine energy, hoping to be chosen. That's not masculine, that's surrender. What you need to understand is this: most guys think showing vulnerability means spilling the their insecurities, but true masculine vulnerability is shown through calm strength, through silence when others react, through presence when others perform. Here's the line in the sand. A real stoic never seeks validation from a woman, because he knows the moment you need her to see your worth, you've already forgotten it. And that's when she pulls back. That's when she starts testing. That's when she thinks, maybe he's not who I thought he was. You want her to be drawn to you like gravity? Stay tuned. The real lesson begins now. Picture this. She pulls away, starts taking longer to reply, cancels plans. She's not as affectionate. You feel it. That shift, that energy change. Most guys, they panic. They think, what did I do wrong? How can I fix this? And then they start doing exactly what destroys attraction. They chase. Now pause right there. That's the moment a real stoic separates himself from the average man. He doesn't chase clarity. He doesn't beg for consistency. He doesn't demand validation, because he already knows. If something is slipping away from you and you try to force it back, you just prove how little power you have. Women don't test men for fun. They test to feel something, to feel your grounding, your stillness, your emotional control. You ever wonder why the man who doesn't flinch under pressure is always the one they crave? Because that man is rare. That man is unshakable. That man doesn't react. He observes. Let me break it down with a real scenario. You're texting a woman. Things were good. Then she suddenly turns cold. You feel it. Your gut twists. The urge to respond fast, to fix it, to ask, are we good, floods in. But here's the stoic move. You don't feed the chaos. You lean back. You hold your center. Because when you break your frame to chase, you lose her interest. But when you hold your frame and let her come to you, or not, you gain her respect. That's the paradox. The more you chase clarity from her, the more confused she becomes about you. But the more grounded you stay in the face of uncertainty, the more drawn she becomes. Not to your words, but to your presence. Remember, women are emotional creatures. They swim in waves. You're the rock. You don't follow her mood. You anchor her in it. Inner dialogue. She's thinking, why isn't he reacting? Why isn't he chasing me like the others? Did I lose him? Is he better than I thought? That's when attraction spikes. Because the man who doesn't chase, doesn't beg, doesn't explain, he lives in abundance. He's a man who's not afraid to walk away, and that is masculine dominance at its finest. Get this right, and everything changes. Here's what most men don't understand. You're not just training how you interact with women, you're training your nervous system. Every time you respond impulsively, you wire in weakness. Every time you double text, over-explain, or try to fix her mood, you're conditioning yourself to be emotionally dependent on her response. Now ask yourself, how can a man lead when he's being led by her validation? That's the disease of modern men. Emotional slavery disguised as romantic effort. But Stoicism cuts through that noise like a blade. It says, you don't control what she does. You only control how you respond. That's the battlefield. That's the moment of power. So let's clarify the one thing a real Stoic never does with women. He never lets her emotions dictate his identity. Let that sink in. Because her attraction will fluctuate, her moods will change, her attention may wander, and in those moments, most men make the fatal mistake of tying their self-worth to her behavior. She pulls back, they collapse. She gets cold, they panic. She tests them, they fail. But the Stoic man, he remains. He observes the storm without becoming it. That's real strength. Not in how loud you can talk, but in how still you can stand. Picture this. You're with a woman. She throws a subtle jab trying to get a rise out of you. Maybe says something about another guy. You feel your ego twitch. The weak man reacts, tries to assert himself, get the upper hand. But the Stoic? He smiles, pauses, says nothing. He's not playing that game. Because when you react, you reveal your weakness. But when you remain composed, you expose hers. That's emotional dominance. It's not about pretending not to care. It's about knowing who you are so deeply that no one else's behavior can shake you. And you better believe she feels that. Inner dialogue. He didn't flinch. He didn't fight for approval. He's not afraid of losing me. What kind of man is this? That's when curiosity turns into obsession. Because you've shown her something rare, something powerful, something only a man of true internal mastery can display. Restraint. We're just getting started. You ever wonder why the man who seems to care less always ends up with more? More attention, more respect, more control. It's not because he's heartless, it's because he's centered, grounded, rooted in something deeper than temporary emotions. Now listen carefully. If you're a real Stoic, you don't play emotional ping-pong with women. You don't match her mood swings. You don't try to prove your worth to get her back in alignment. That's what desperate men do. That's what weak men do. And that's exactly what pushes her further away. Because here's the harsh truth. The more emotionally available you become to the wrong woman, the less masculine she feels around you. You're not giving her security. You're giving her control. And when a woman feels like she has control over your emotions, the game is already over. Think back to a time she said something cold, maybe ignored your message, maybe started acting distant. What did you do? Did you try to talk it out? Did you start over, analyzing every word, hoping to solve the puzzle? That right there, that's not masculine energy, that's emotional servitude. A Stoic man doesn't negotiate for peace. He creates it within himself. Let me give you a scenario. You take her out. Things go well. Next day, she's distant. You could call her out. You could ask, What's wrong? You could panic, but instead you go silent. Not out of spite, out of principle. You're not punishing her. You're preserving your energy. That's when something powerful happens. She starts to feel the shift. Not because you shouted, not because you explained, but because you pulled back with calm detachment. She feels that void. And in that silence, your presence becomes louder than words. Her inner voice goes wild. Why isn't he chasing me? Did I lose him? Does he even care? Is he slipping out of my hands? And that right there, that internal panic, is what reignites her attraction. Because women don't fall for men who need them. They fall for men who have the discipline to walk away if something no longer aligns with their standards. That's the Stoic edge. You don't argue, you don't plead, you don't beg, you just exit, quietly, powerfully. And in doing so, you shift from a man she tolerated to a man she respects. Here's what you need to understand about attraction. It's not logical, it's primal, emotional, subconscious. And the more predictable you become, the less she feels. Let that sit for a second, because if she can predict your every move, if she knows you'll always text first, always say yes, always adjust yourself to please her, she feels safe, but not excited, comfortable, but not captivated. And that's when boredom sets in. That's when she starts to pull away. And most guys, they panic. But not the Stoic. See, a real Stoic man doesn't become more available when she withdraws. He becomes less, not because he's playing games, but because he refuses to sacrifice his dignity for breadcrumbs. Now imagine this. She says, I just need space. This average guy hears that and thinks, how can I fix this? What did I do? He spirals, sends long texts, apologizes for things he didn't do. That's emotional chaos. But the Stoic hears the same words and simply says, take all the space you need. Then he vanishes, fully, cleanly, no pettiness, no explanation. Why? Because he understands that peace is earned through detachment, not desperation. And here's the twist. The more you're willing to walk away, the more they chase. That's the gravity of masculine restraint. Inner dialogue. She's pacing now. Wait, why isn't he fighting for this? Did he even care? Is he already over me? That mystery, it drives her insane, because she's used to men folding. She's used to control, but now she's faced with a man who answers chaos with calm, and that calm, it's intoxicating. This isn't about being cold, it's about being sovereign, whole, complete within yourself, because the man who doesn't need her validation commands it, and the man who doesn't crave her attention draws it effortlessly. This is why the Stoic doesn't play the prove your love game. He doesn't bend, doesn't beg, doesn't break. He simply lives by one law. If I have to lower myself to keep her, she was never mine to begin with. So next time she pulls away, don't chase her. Chase your discipline, your purpose, your peace. Because when you anchor into those things, she feels it. And that's when the real power begins. Let me tell you something that'll hit deep. The moment a woman knows she can emotionally unravel you, she no longer sees you as a man she can trust. Because when you're too reactive, too emotional, too caught up in her every move, you stop being her rock and start becoming her responsibility. And here's the irony. Most guys think showing their feelings is what women want. But when you make her your therapist, your emotional support system, your EV, everything, you smother her femininity with your instability. You think you're being open. She sees a man collapsing. Now don't twist this. Being Stoic doesn't mean you suppress how you feel. It means you master it. You channel it. You don't bring your problems to her to fix. You solve them in silence. And when you speak with weight, not neediness. Let me give you a scene. You just had a rough day. She texts something cold or dismissive. Most men respond emotionally. They try to correct her tone, explain their stress, demand empathy. That's weakness disguised as communication. But the Stoic, he pauses, reads it, and chooses not to respond, not out of ego, but out of strength. Because when your peace is non-negotiable, her attitude won't shake you, it'll reveal her. She starts wondering, why is he so unfazed? Did I go too far? Is he pulling away? That mental unrest, that's the cost of testing a grounded man. And that's the point. Because when you remain still, when you don't react, when you show emotional sovereignty, she can finally lean into her feminine. She relaxes. She respects you, not because you're aggressive, but because you're immovable. Women don't want to lead the emotional frame. They want to feel safe inside it. And the moment you hand that frame over to her, the polarity dies. Here's the bold truth. If you can't remain emotionally grounded, you can't be her man. You become her mirror, and no woman wants to reflect back weakness. So stop thinking your feelings are always supposed to be shared. Some emotions are meant to be held, processed in solitude, transformed into strength. That's what makes you stoic. That's what makes you rare. And in a world of men who overshare and underlead, you become unforgettable. Here's the next truth most men don't want to admit. You've been trained to perform for women, smile the right way, text at the perfect time, say what she wants to hear, but that's not aim. That's theater, and women feel the difference. See, when your identity depends on her reaction, you're already lost. When you try to impress, you're not being real. You're adapting to her frame, and the moment she feels you shape-shifting to please her, she knows, this man is beneath me. Real stoic men, they don't perform. They present authentically, calmly, powerfully. They let the chips fall where they may, because when you know your value, you don't audition for intimacy. Let me paint a scene. You're on a date. She's beautiful, sharp, knows her value. Most men in your position would turn up the charm, compliment her endlessly, avoid any disagreement to keep the vibe, but not you. You stay composed, honest. If she says something that doesn't align with your worldview, you say so, respectfully, without flinching. You're not trying to win her. You're simply showing who you are and letting her choose. That's magnetic. That's rare. That's stoic. Because you're not selling an image, you're embodying truth. No masks, no emotional need to be liked. And that's the moment she looks at you differently. Inner dialogue. He doesn't need me to approve of him. He's not trying to impress me. He's just him. That's hot. Attraction isn't built through performance. It's built through unapologetic presence. Now listen carefully. Most guys lose their power because they fall in love with how she sees them instead of how they see themselves. But a stoic man flips that. He builds himself daily, not for applause, not for validation, but because self-respect demands it. And that self-respect, it bleeds into every interaction. She sees it in your eyes, feels it in your silence, senses it when you say, "That's not for me," without fear of her reaction. That's how you lead. That's how you attract. That's how you dominate without ever raising your voice. Because when a man is no longer afraid of losing her, he becomes the man no woman wants to lose. Let me give you a harsh but freeing truth. She's watching how you respond to pressure, not when things are smooth, not when she's all over you, but when she pulls back, when she throws shade, when she tests your frame. That's when your character is revealed. And if you crack, if you become reactive, clingy, needy, then she sees you as replaceable. But when you stand firm, calm, unfazed, that's when she realizes, this man is built different. You want to know what a Stoic never does? He never abandons his mission for a woman's attention, because purpose comes first, always. A man who sacrifices his path to chase love will lose both. But a man who protects his path, no matter how much he wants her, that man becomes untouchable. Now let me tell you a story. There was a man, deeply in love. She was everything he wanted, at least that's what he thought. But as time passed, her energy changed. She became distant, cold. The average man would have fought, overcommitted, tried to fix it. But he didn't. He tightened up his focus, poured into his craft, went silent, not bitter, better. While she was watching his stories, he was building empires. And when she finally reached back out, expecting him to be right there waiting, he was already gone. Not out of anger, out of evolution. And that's what the Stoic understands. You don't chase what retracts. You advance in your purpose and let what's real align. Inner dialogue from her. He didn't wait. He didn't pause his life for me. Who is he now? That's when she looks again. That's when she remembers. That's when she feels the absence and realizes it's heavier than your presence ever was. That's masculine gravity. That's the power of restraint. And that's why emotional control isn't about suppression. It's about strategy. You don't blow up. You don't chase. You let her feel the weight of your absence, because your presence was earned, not gifted. So hear this. If she can pull you off your purpose, she owns you. If she can shake your frame, she leads you. And if she leads you, the attraction dies. This is your warning, but also your weapon. Stand firm or fall forgotten. Let's take it deeper now. Most men live in emotional debt, and women can smell it. They're walking around craving to be seen, craving to be chosen. And they think if they just love harder, give more, bend a little further, eventually she'll reciprocate. But that's not how attraction works. You don't get respect by giving up your spine. You get it by having one. A real Stoic man doesn't love from emptiness. He loves from overflow, because his cup is already full, built through discipline, solitude, pain, and purpose, not compliments, not attention, not female approval. So let's be brutally honest. If she senses that your happiness is tied to her, she will test you harder. And when you fail those tests, when you flinch, chase, overcommit, she'll start to resent you. She won't say it out loud, but the shift will be instant. Because no woman wants to be your peace if she also has to be your power source. That's your job. And a Stoic man knows it. Picture this. You're deep in your grind, building something, growing, focused. She texts with drama, accusation, maybe even manipulation. She wants a reaction. She wants your energy off your mission and onto her emotion. But you don't bite. You read the message, you breathe, you put the phone down, you finish your workout, you hit your goal, you maintain your frame. That silence, that emotional discipline, it shakes her. Inner dialogue. He's not feeding this, he's not giving in. What the hell? Is he really that calm? Yes, you are. Because you've seen the cost of being a man who chases storms instead of building shelters. You're done playing emotional tag. You're done forgiving. You're done acting like being available 24/7 is noble. It's not. It's desperate. And here's the raw truth. If she can disturb your focus, she owns your future. But when your mind stays locked on purpose, and you don't chase, don't explain, don't justify, you become the rare breed of man that women remember forever. Not because you were emotional, but because you were grounded. That's what Stoicism is. It's not about being cold. It's about being so hot with discipline that nothing outside you controls the flame. Let's talk about power. Not loud, boastful, chest-thumping power. Real power. Silent, calm, unshakable. The kind that doesn't ask for respect. It gets it automatically. The kind that doesn't come from domination, but from absolute self-control. You want to know what makes a woman feel safe around a man? It's not muscles, it's not money, it's not smooth lines, it's emotional consistency. The ability to stay composed no matter what storm she throws your way. Now here's the twist. She'll test you. Not because she wants to destroy you, but because she wants to feel your strength. And if you fold, she loses trust. Fast. If you're a real Stoic, you don't emotionally flinch. You don't break into explanations. You don't start over-explaining, defending, or begging her to understand. You know your truth. You live it. You don't broadcast it. You embody it. Let me show you what that looks like. She accuses you of something vague. You've been distant. You don't really care. A weak man rushes to fix it, tries to appease, sends paragraph texts, tries to prove his love. But the Stoic, he says something simple, direct. That's not true, but you're allowed to feel what you feel. Then he goes back to his life. Why? Because his peace isn't up for negotiation, because he doesn't need her emotional roller coaster to be okay for him to be okay. And here's the cold truth. If a woman can control your mood, she controls your mind. And once your mind is hers, your masculinity dissolves. She might not even know why she starts pulling away, but she will. Because she can no longer relax into her feminine energy when you're emotionally spiraling. You were supposed to be the mountain. Instead, you became the wind. Now ask yourself, who would you rather be? The man who bends every time her energy shifts, or the man who anchors so deeply in his principles she becomes more attracted every time he says less? Inner dialogue. Why is he so calm? Why do I feel more drawn to him when he says nothing? Is he stronger than I thought? Yes, you are, and the silence is your proof. Now listen closely. The world will try to sell you a lie. That love means self-sacrifice. That being a good man means bending to her every demand. That if you just love her enough, she'll stay. But here's the Stoic truth. Love without boundaries is self-betrayal. A real man doesn't lose himself in a woman. He finds out who she really is by staying true to himself. You don't test her loyalty by giving her everything. You test it by giving her standards. And if she can't meet them, you don't chase. You walk, quietly, without drama, without spite, with power. That's where 99% of men fold. They think holding the line makes them cruel. That saying no makes them toxic, but it's the opposite. A woman respects a man who can say, enough. Here's what that looks like. She's inconsistent, hot and cold, blames you for her mood swings. The average guy? He tiptoes, tries harder, sacrifices his needs, says, maybe I'm the problem. But you stand still. You say, this doesn't work for me. You don't yell, you don't beg, you don't insult, you just walk. And that silence, that boundary, that's your power. Inner dialogue from her. Wait, he's not tolerating this? He's not begging me to stay? Who is this man? That's the question that shifts everything, because she's used to weak men, predictable men, men who need her more than they need their own peace. But not you. You don't abandon yourself to win her. You don't lower your standards for her attention. You don't perform emotional acrobatics to keep her happy. You live by a higher code. Because you understand something most men never will. Masculinity isn't about control, it's about composure. If you can't say no, your yes means nothing. If you can't walk away, you have no leverage. And if you can't hold your own line, she will cross it every time until there's nothing left of you but resentment. That's not love, that's enslavement. So, brother, if she disrespects your time, your energy, your peace, don't explain, don't react, don't chase, just vanish. That silence will say everything. So let's bring it all home. If you truly call yourself stoic, you don't chase validation, you don't fold to emotion, and you never abandon your purpose for a woman's affection. You lead with presence, with stillness, with restraint. And that, my brother, is what separates you from every other man out there. This isn't about playing cold. It's about being so grounded, so in control of your internal world that the external chaos doesn't move you. She can test you, pull away, challenge you, and all you do is breathe, observe, choose. That's divine masculinity. Because while most men crumble under the pressure of attraction, you hold your frame. You don't beg, you don't explain, you don't try to fix her emotions. You simply stay aligned with who you are and let the world adjust. Here's the final truth. A real Stoic never gives his power away for intimacy. He creates intimacy by keeping his power. You want her respect? Master yourself. You want her attraction? Don't need it. You want her loyalty? Be the man she fears losing, not the man she pities. Inner dialogue from her. He didn't chase. He didn't explain. He just walked. I can't stop thinking about him. That's the echo you leave behind when you operate from internal strength, not desperation. Now, I'm not saying don't care. I'm not saying don't love. I'm saying only love when it doesn't cost you your soul. You can give a woman your heart, your presence, your protection, but never give her your center. That belongs to you, always. And if there's one Stoic principle to tattoo on your mind after watching this video, it's this. A man's worth is not measured by how he reacts when loved, but by how he stands when tested. So here's your challenge. Next time you feel the pull to chase, to explain, to overextend, don't. Sit with it. Breathe. Choose the higher path. And remember what Marcus Aurelius said. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. You're not here to be liked. You're here to be remembered. Now go, be unshakable.